Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to Prime on my Media Prime, the first for this week. An edition that is going to be taking us back to Cameroon's history, especially Cameroonians from the southwest and northwest regions. We're talking about former southern Cameroons. Professor Victor Julius Ngoh, historian and yes, he is a historian, one of the best Cameroon has ever had. Former one of the deputy vice chancellors at the University of Boya, a former registrar of that same university, also registrar at the University of, deputy vice chancellor at the University of Bamenda, and president of the Catholic University Institute of the Diocese of Boya. He is author of so many history books that I'm going to read. He is author of Cameroon from 1884 to 1985, 100 years of history. We have the world since 1919, a short history. We have Cameroon 1884 to 1985. And then we have history of Cameroon since 1800, slave settlement in the Bayan country. We have co-authored with ESD Fumban. We have Southern Cameroon's 1922 to 1961. We have Cameroon from a federal to unitary states. We have Les Dessous de la Réunification du Cameroun. We have the untold story of Cameroon reunification, okay? Yeah. You have le Cameroun dès 1884 à nos jours. We have abrogation of federalism in Cameroon. All are books written by Professor Victor Julius Ngoh. This evening, he just published another book. This is a book with me here. It is titled The Third Option and the Anglophone Problem, 1959 to 2022, a historical-conflict study by Victor Julius Ngoh. He is with me in the studio this evening to explore what is contained in this book. I know many of you are seated across the world to learn of our history, especially those of former Southern Cameroons. Professor, you are not coming here for the first time. We're glad to have you with us.
Thank you very much. And I would like to thank you for giving me the floor, the opportunity to explain to Cameroonians the third option and the Anglophone problem. And it is very timely because in less than 48 hours, we received the horrible news of the brutal assassination of at least 12 people in Bamenda. And it's very, very shocking. And it is all within the concept of the misinterpretation and misinformation as far as the Cameroon history is concerned. And I think the book Former Southern Cameroons, the Third Option, and the Anglophone Problem 1959 to 2022 will better let Cameroonians understand that this senseless conflict is due to Cameroonians not understanding, not knowing their history.
Okay. Now the book is has 8 chapters. Chapter 1, say negotiations on independence. Chapter 2, search for a third option. Chapter 3, plebiscite and acceptance of results. Chapter 4, crafting the federal constitution and independence. And Chapter 5, Anglophone problem. Chapter 6, Anglophone crisis transformed into an armed conflict. We have Chapter 7, grievances and quest for solutions. Chapter 8, Biya convened a major national dialogue. So we're going to be looking at all of this now. Prof, I'll start by you telling us, we'll start from Chapter 2. It talks about a search for a third option. So many persons who want to understand what this third option is all about.
Yeah, thank you. I think it is very important because there's a misconception with regard to the third option. And the third option is essentially Southern Cameroons achieving independence as a separate state. And it is unfortunate that Anglophones and Cameroonians and even teachers of Cameroon history, as late as this last GCE marking session, you still had some history examiners saying that the third option was the most popular. And I asked myself, that is exactly what they are teaching their students. And their students tomorrow would take that wrong history and teach. So it is important for Cameroonians to understand and know their history. The third option was Southern Cameroons achieving independence as a separate state. It was not a popular option. The two options were, popular options were, Southern Cameroons achieving independence in association with Nigeria, or Southern Cameroons achieving independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. I say this because between 1946 right up to 1959, February 1959, the third option was not a popular option. The UN visiting missions, 1949, 1952, 1955, 1958, did not receive any petition for Southern Cameroons achieving independence as a separate state. And the only political party that came up forcefully for independence as a separate state was in February 1959, and it was the Cameroon United Party by P.M. Kale, February 1959. So there's this misunderstanding, misinterpretation when people are made to believe that the KNDP had independence as a separate state. It is not true. The KNDP option was independence, and we shall discuss reunification afterwards. And this is very clear because one of the reasons John Ngoh Foncha and A.N. Joa bolted away from the Cameroon National Council, KNC, in 1955 was because Dr. E.M.L. Ndeli had abandoned the original goal of the KNC. And this is very clear in P.M. Kale's book, Cameroon Political Evolution. He makes it very clear that Foncha left the KNC because Ndeli had abandoned reunification. And also, in 1955, in a meeting in Chief Abel Mukete's palace in Kumba, Foncha made it clear that Ndeli was no longer following the policy of the KNC, and that was why he left the KNC and founded the KNDP. Therefore, to give you another reason, in October 1956, the KNDP sent a confidential letter to the Union Nationale of Support Prison, asking for financial assistance. And in the letter, the KNDP said, unlike the KNC KPP, we want reunification. We want to join our brothers in Eastern Cameroon. We need financial support. That was in October 1956.
You say the third option was?
The third option was independence as a separate state.
Now, this third option was presented by the UN?
The third option was presented as a political goal, officially and strongly, by P.M. Kale in 1959. It is important to take us back a little. During the Bamenda Conference of 1956, the fronts and chiefs said they wanted neither water nor fire, which meant they wanted neither reunification nor association. But it is important to clarify this. The fronts and chiefs were not united and did not carry that policy, that position all along. Because when in 1956, they said we wanted neither fire nor water. In 1957, less than a year after, in 1957, at the London Constitutional Conference, Gallagher II, who went to the conference as a delegate of the KNC, and the KNC was for independence in association with Nigeria.
Okay. No.
Let me make this point. So, Von Gallagher II in London sent a telegram to Von Achirim II saying that they should join, all the fronts and chiefs should join the KNDP. And the KNDP's ultimate position was reunification. So this is important.
Let us get back to coming up with the third option. What was the prevailing political atmosphere before negotiations on independence?
It is essential to note that all along since 1922, the British subtle policy was for British Cameroons, that is British Northern Cameroon and British Southern Cameroon, to achieve independence in association with Nigeria. That was the subtle policy. So all what the British government did from 1922 right up to 1961 was to ensure that British Southern Cameroons achieve independence in association with Nigeria. And that was why several of the financial economic reports which were commissioned by the British, the reports all pointed to the fact that Southern Cameroons was not financially viable to survive. But it was not true. Southern Cameroons were financially viable. And I say this because the 1954 Chiki report, which said Southern Cameroons was not viable, that same report was criticized by some British officials who argued that the methodology used in arriving at that conclusion was wrong. So Southern Cameroons was rich to have survived as a separate state, but that was not the popular option.
Okay. Good evening to you, Olga Putinova. Fendi Bile is watching from Germany. Good evening to you, Tatian Joaquin, and to all of you watching us using our Facebook page. Now, let us actually understand the political landscape of the Southern Cameroons before the negotiations for independence. Which political platform existed and how were these, because we are talking about the third options.
Yes, please.
Which means there was a second,
yes, please,
a first, a second, and a third option.
Yes,
yes.
please.
Which political parties were existing on this part of Cameroon, and how did they table the different options?
Fine. You had the KNC of Dr. Ewane in Delhi. Initially, the KNC was for reunification. But after 1954, when the KNC signed a secret agreement with the action group of Awolowo in the Western region, in which the action group agreed to finance the KNC, in return, the KNC would strive for independence in association with Nigeria in support of the action group. So that was the KNC. Then you had the KPP, Cameroon People's Party of NN Bile and PM Kale. They also wanted independence in association with Nigeria. But unlike the KNC, the KPP wanted independence in association with Nigeria by working with the NCNC of Azikiwe. So you had that option, KNC and KPP had a different goal. Then you had the KNDP that wanted Southern Cameroons in the long run to achieve independence by reuniting with French Cameroon. So that was the second option. Now this third option of Southern Cameroon achieving independence as a separate state, which the fronts and chiefs had mentioned in 1956, did not have any political party in Southern Cameroon until 1959. So the KNDP policy of reunification was supported by the UPC in French Cameroon.
Okay, so these are the options that existed and were presented. Now, how did at the time, how did these options, how were they presented to the people?
It is necessary to articulate it very well. After 1955, with the UPC, quote-unquote, atrocities in French Cameroon, the idea of reunification scared some Southern Cameroonians. Consequently, it was not politically wise to sing reunification constantly. And the KNC policy was, well, we would ask for separation from Nigeria for some time and be under British administration and eventually decide what we want. That was their policy. Because reunification was not popular after 1955 because of the atrocities. So you have there was this situation where the KNDP would say, yes, we want to secede from Nigeria and be under British administration for some time, and then negotiate reunification. But their ultimate goal was reunification. And I say this with concrete evidence. During the first annual convention of NUCS, that is the National Union of Cameroon Students, which held in Kumba in July 1959, John Ngoh addressed the convention and made it very clear that there are only two options: independence in association with Nigeria, which was supported by the KNC and KPP, and the second option, which was for us for Southern Cameroons to separate, because by separation, that's how they will get reunification. That was what he said. It will be easier to get reunification if they separate first. So you had this situation of reunification being one of the options, but after, because of the UPC atrocities, it was not very popular to make it known. So it was more or less coming in through the back door to have a reunification. And it is important to, I always say this, in February 1959, the NEC meeting of KNDP resolved that Southern Cameroons should join French Cameroon before French Cameroon achieved independence in January 1960. This is important. NEC meeting of February 1959 resolved that Southern Cameroon should join French Cameroon before French Cameroon achieved independence. So with French Cameroon, Southern Cameroon would achieve independence in 1960. So that should give you an idea of the reunification issue. As far as the third option is concerned, again, because that is the crux of our story, in May 1959, there was a secret meeting in Lagos by the British Secretary of State for Colonies. At that meeting, Foncha, Muna, and Joa, the British Secretary of State for Colonies, told them, tell us what you want as far as the political future of Southern Cameroon is concerned. And Her Majesty's government will inform the United Nations, and the UN will meekly accept. And this was when? This was May 1959. And May 1959, the KNDP controlled the Southern Cameroon's House of Assembly. The KNDP had 14 seats. The KNC, KPP had 12 seats. And the British Secretary of State for Colonies added that the position of the KNDP of Southern Cameroons would be very strong if it is backed by a motion from the Southern Cameroons House of Assembly. And one would have thought, if independence as a separate state was that popular, and if it was the position of the KNDP, and the KNDP controlled the Southern Cameroons House of Assembly, the natural conventional wisdom would be that the KNDP would gladly table the motion in the Southern Cameroons House of Assembly. To be fair, Joa was very excited. And Joa went to the extent of saying that he was going to use the Anglo Society to ensure that Southern Cameroon's independence as a separate state is accepted. Unfortunately, it was not popular. And when it was even presented in the Southern Cameroon's House of Assembly in September 1959 by Adjebe Sonne of the KNC, it did not pass. It failed in the Southern Cameroon's House of Assembly. So that's the third option. The third option was not popular. Okay. Because if it was popular, what prevented Southern Cameroonians from rushing behind PM Kale?
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm NS from Chang. I wish to ask Prof if the third option was brought on the table. Was it brought on the table? And if no, how then have people come to know about it up to the point of it not being popular? Okay. This one says the third option was not popular, just like the present impossible option of secession. Those to have caused chaos for the most part have always had unpopular options. Okay, Charles Embula is writing there from Boya. Good evening, Bosu Yanet Nwe is always watching from Bonaberi in Douala there. Now, we are talking about the third option, and that third option is that requested for independence.
Yes,
outright please. Independence.
Yes, please.
And you say that the funds said, you used the example of fire
and water.
And water.
Yes, please.
Now, if this is the position they had, why did that notion not translate into a popular political platform that could carry the notion through?
First of all, bear in mind that Southern Cameroons was a UN trust territory administered by the UK. The policy of the UK was for Southern Cameroons to achieve independence in association with Nigeria. And you should also bear in mind the international atmosphere at the time, the international climate of the Cold War, and also the influence of the Afro-Asian bloc. The African bloc in the UN did not want Southern Cameroons to achieve independence as a separate state. The African bloc, the African group, was more concerned with ensuring the creation of the United States of Africa. And it argued that the balkanization of Africa will make it difficult for the attainment of the United States of Africa. Consequently, with the influence of the UPC, Kwame Nkrumah, Secretary Abdel Nasser, they all felt and agreed wrongly that Southern Cameroons was not viable. But the international climate at the time, the Cold War, and also bear in mind, France was bleeding in Algeria. The British were being knocked out in Kenya, the Mau Mau rebellion. So it was not a popular option of independence as a separate state. And so somebody just asked, was it tabled or not? And that's why I'm saying that the first time a united, concerted effort, as far as the third option is concerned, came in February 1959 with the creation of the KUP by PM Kakale. Chief Stephen Nyenti also had the CCC, and Jesco Manga also had the small parties. What is important to tell you how it is, when the third option was rejected, PM Kale informed the United Nations that he would call on his militants to mutilate the ballot papers and to protest. Unfortunately, there was no protest, which gives you the clear indication that although PM Kale was a political giant in Southern Cameroon's politics, he did not have the supporters.
Okay, he did not have the supporters. Dedi Quinty, good evening to you watching us, and to you Zuzi Adamu Zulkifi Shukwi. We are also glad that you guys are watching us on Facebook. Now, we see John Gufoncha, who was a political bigwig of Southern Cameroons at the time, and Ndeli also, who were leading politicians in Southern Cameroons. Why did they gravitate towards going to Nigeria and towards getting to towards Cameroon? Why did both of them, according to your book, not go the PM Kale way?
Because they believed that it was not popular. And secondly, as I've said, the British economic reports convinced a good number of Southern Cameroon politicians that Southern Cameroon would not survive as a separate political entity. In spite of the fact that they eventually you had much poorer African countries, be it in population, be it in economy. And a clear example is Gambia, with at the time a population of 250,000. Southern Cameroon had a population of slightly above 400,000. And this was what annoyed Augustin Ngomjua when he said countries like the Gambia are going for independence as a separate state. How come Southern Cameroons, richer, bigger surface area, bigger population, could not get independence as a separate state? The bottom line is the British policy tailored towards Southern Cameroons achieving independence in association with Nigeria, while the UPC was there fighting that Southern Cameroon should achieve independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon.
Okay, I want to read a part of your book here. We are discussing a book that has just recently been published by Professor Ngoh. I think for those who would want to understand better how things function, you can get a copy. I am on page 84. And I'll read again, UN again, and the third option. The Southern Cameroon's delegation to the United Nations General Assembly 82 Nation Trusteeship Council session of September to October 1959 comprised Premier Foncha and ST Muna for the KNDP and Dr. EML Ndeli for the KNC KPP Alliance. The delegation also included the Commissioner for Southern Cameroons, John O'Field, and his deputy, Malcolm Milner. On 15 September 1959, the Secretary of State for the Colonies, Alan Lennox Boyd, held a working dinner with the Southern Cameroons delegation in London to resolve the political differences regarding the future of the territory. Okay, the working dinner bridged the political divide between the KNDP and the KNC-KPP alliance at the 4th committee meeting of the United Nations on the 30th of September 1959. Foncha and Dr. EML Ndeli, supported by the UK, produced a compromise agreement which would later be popularized as the third option. What was the compromise agreement?
That the KNDP and the KNC stroke KPP should come out in support of asking for independence as a separate state.
That was a compromise that was struck?
Yes.
So why did they not go for that push with it?
That is the crux of the matter. First of all, the British in pushing that option were not sincere. And I say this because after September, October 1959, in the British House of Commons, the British government official said in November 1959 that Ndeli and Foncha were not sincere in their support of the third option. That was November 1959, just after the September-October UN session, during which the third option was rejected. So that gives you an idea. And also, all along, in Delhi and the KNC, KPP had never talked of independence as a separate state. Had never. The KNP had never talked of independence as a permanent position for Southern Cameroons. And it is important, you see, we have to say it the way it was. If independence as a separate state was what they actually wanted, why did they leave out PM Kale in the trip to London? PM Kale was the only politician and the only major political party, quote unquote, that came out strongly for independence as a separate state. And you are going to London on your way to the UN to argue in support of independence as a separate state. And the politician who incarnated that position was left out. Can you, Mr. Liu, honestly say they were honest in saying that they supported independence as a separate state when the quote unquote the father of independence as a separate state was not invited?
Yeah, I don't know what reading you had. Were there some secret meetings that cajoled Ndeli to wanting to move that way and Foncha to wanting to come this way?
The bottom line is that they were all playing to the gallery.
Okay.
And fortunately, Dinka is alive because he attended the UN session with Abe Mukong and representing Southern Cameroon students. And he made it very clear that at the UN, Foncha, instead of asking for independence as a separate state, was only asking for the British continued administration. So the idea of the third option, independence as a separate state, was just for political gallery. And it came at a time when, as I've said, there was the Cold War. There was the Afro-Asian group. And within the UN, there was the African group that did not want independence for Southern Cameroon as a separate state.
Okay. Now, Stanley Nui Semo says, Mr. Kum, greetings to you. And Prof made a point that he was surprised that even during the just finished GCE marking sessions, historians didn't agree on the third option. Prof is fond of talking on your platform. We have thousands of historians out there. I am just wondering why some of these historians can't come to this platform and have a debate with Prof Ngoh so as to clarify some doubts. Shall Southern Cameroonians ever know their true history? Giving some of these conflicting facts, too bad for us. Okay, Terryman, good evening to you. But then, when I had my first interview here with Prof, where many persons felt that he had a different version of what Professor Fanso said, I took the time to call Professor Fanso myself. I've invited him on 2 occasions. I've also reached out to so many lecturers of history in Cameroon universities who would not accept to come and talk on TV. I don't know why, who they are afraid of. These are opportunities for persons to explain to Cameroonians to understand and master better how their history looks like. But
I think, let me just say one word. I think as far as history is concerned, we deal with authentic evidence, authentic documents. And when I say, for instance, as recently as this month, the history examiners, some were saying that the third option was popular. You ask them, do you have evidence to support that? And said that was what I was told. No, that is not history. That is not history. If you say the third option was popular, give evidence. And we have made it very clear. You can go read all the reports of the UN visiting mission, as I've said, 49, 52, 55, 58. Was there a request, a sustained request for independence as a separate state? The answer is no. When was the first party that came out for independence as a separate state formed? February 1959. Did that party have any support? The answer is no. So if the party did not have any support, even when KNDP, KNC people were going to the UN to ask for independence, the party that called for independence as a separate state was left out. And even when the party called for mutilation of ballot papers, it was not done. Called for protest, it failed. So where was the support? So we should not get too sentimental and refuse to face the harsh reality. You see, the problem with the Cameroonians, most of them, is they don't read, but they prefer to talk as if they know. And just let me make one point clear. For quite some time, it was argued that Professor Ngoh was not correct when he said if Amadou Ahidjo gave Foncha a draft and Foncha did not present it at the Bamenda conference. But now all documents have been declassified. And everybody has recognized and accepted that the document that Ahidjo gave Foncha twice in May 1961 and in Boya in June 1961, Foncha did not present the draft in Bamenda. That one is clear. That one is clear.
Okay. Now, PM Kale himself, if his position, the third option, did not sail through, was he not also, is it not a sign that he was not also a politically savvy person at the time? Because if you have an option and you're a politician, why did he not convince? There was the Southern Cameroon House now of Chiefs at the time and an assembly. Why could he not convince people to see into the goodness of this option?
You see, history is a very fascinating discipline, very stubborn discipline. But history is history. The Southern Cameroon's population at the time, almost 65 to 70%, came from what at that time was called the Bamenda grass field. And the KNDP, with its policy, had most of the popular sons from the Bamenda and grass field, especially when, after 1958, S2 Mumuna joined the KNDP. I mean, the KNDP. So you had Joa, popular figure, Foncha, popular figure, Muna, popular figure, and with them, they took a good number of the population with them. So you had a situation where, although Kale was a political giant, he did not have support even in his own quote-unquote village. You had a situation where PM Kale and the Dr. Ewane in Delhi, two prominent politicians from the forest zone. In fact, in Boya, they were more or less neighbors.
Yeah, they shared Kale's up and then Delhi's down. Yeah.
But politically, they never saw eye to eye. And Kale made that very clear in his book, that he and Dr. Ewane in Delhi never saw eye to eye politically. So you had a situation where Kale could not even have the forest vote because Dr. Ewane in Delhi was there, who did not support independence as a separate state. And that was why Kale had no support. And again, to crown that argument, once PM Kale realized that his option, his platform had collapsed, he joined the KNDP. Get it very well. He joined the KNDP and eventually became Speaker of the West Cameroon House of Assembly under the KNDP umbrella.
Okay, under the KNDP umbrella. And after that, he tried unsuccessfully. But was it not also because maybe Ndeli, who wanted us to go down to Nigeria, and Foncha, who wanted us to stay this way, were also convinced by the document or the findings presented by the British, suggesting that Southern Cameroons at the time could not, was not viable enough to take care of itself as a nation.
Yeah, that is the point, and I've been trying to make, and Victor E. Mukete make that point very clear. The methodology that the British used in coming up with those findings were tilted in such a way that the conclusion was Southern Cameroon was not financially viable. And surprisingly, the Southern Cameroon government, be it the short-lived government of Dr. Ewane in Delhi from May 1958 to January 1959, or Foncha from January 1959 to January 1961, did not initiate their own independent financial study to either disprove the reports by the British or to support the reports. And if you follow S.A. George's point of his publication, 7 steps or 7 points towards reunification, it is obvious that Southern Cameroon was rich. But unfortunately, the British were able to drive home the point to the extent that the British Secretary of State for Colonies in 1957 at the London Conference said the best friends of Southern Cameroons, I'm just paraphrasing it, the best friends of Southern Cameroons believe that it will serve Southern Cameroon better should they achieve independence in association with Nigeria. Can you imagine that? That is, the UK is the administering authority and tells you the best friends of Southern Cameroons believe that you should achieve independence by joining Nigeria. And in 1959, at the Murphy Plebiscite Conference, that message was repeated. The best friends of Southern Cameroon believe that you should achieve independence by joining Nigeria.
Okay, good evening, sir. I love the program, please. Why is Prof only coming up now with these facts? They are not contained in his past publications. Is he saying that late Molanjo Litumbe and other historians are not saying the truth about the absence of the third option? I don't think this is the first time Prof is talking about it.
Of course not. It is not the first time. What the added information is the recently declassified and documents. This book has revealing information which public at the time. I'll just give you one or two examples. At the Fumban Conference, okay, get this very well. At the Fumban Conference, the closing date, February 21st, Indeli and Foncha thanked Ahidjo for having allowed them look through the draft constitution. Thanked Ahidjo for having allowed the Southern Cameroon delegation to look through the draft constitution. And also, which is very painful, said the Republic of Cameroon should treat Southern Cameroons just like a senior brother treats a younger brother. I don't know if you know what that means. And at the same time, Anglophones and Cameroonians are saying that they went to Fumban as equals. If you went to Fumban as equals, why should you ask another party to treat you just like a senior brother treats a younger brother? So these are some of the what has come out. And also, Amadou Ahidjo knew fully well that the time was too short to come out with a draft, to come out with a final constitution. And the Fumban Conference, the documents, the records show that at one point, Ahidjo wanted the two delegations to go back, wanted to adjourn the conference so that the two delegations should go back, study the draft, and then come again. Unfortunately, the only person who picked up that was Augustin Ngomjua, who complained that he has never seen where a constitution is done in 3 days. But unfortunately, nobody picked it up that, yes, please let us go back and study the files. So those are some of the things which have come out from this book, and there are many. So as far as the third option is concerned, I've been saying it, and we have been saying it.
Okay, I want to read understanding the rejection of the third option. You see, quest for the third option again. In spite of the public statements in support of a reunification by French Cameroon officials, pro-reunification forces in French Cameroon and French Cameroonians residents in southern Cameroons, the spirit and popularity of reunification was dampened in southern Cameroons by the UPC terrorist operations in the Republic of Cameroon. The attacks once more demonstrated and exposed the grave security concerns in the Republic of Cameroon, and voices were raised within KNDP circles in southern Cameroons against the two alternative plebiscite questions. But now, where the people of former southern Cameroons, were they also trapped? Because some persons, we are talking about the third option here.
Yeah.
The third option did not feature as an option during the plebiscite.
Yeah.
Why was it dropped?
Because no political party except of the KUP, which had no support, presented it or defended it. And more importantly, and I'm so happy because the documents are there. More importantly, in June 1965, when Foncha was leaving Boya for Yaoundé, because before then he was both vice president of the Federal Republic of Cameroon and Prime Minister of West Cameroon. In 1965, he had to leave for Yaoundé to permanently be the vice president. In his address to West Cameroonians, he made it clear that the third option was rejected because it was not on the political platform, the agenda of the KNDP. The document is there. And we are talking of 1965, after the dust had settled. He said the third option was rejected because it was not the political agenda of the KNDP. So that's it. It's clear. You see, there's one point I would like to clarify to students of history and scholars of history concerning Cameroon history. There's this other misconception that the Bamenda proposals, the proposals that the Southern Cameroons and delegates arrived at the Bamenda All-Party Constitutional Conference of June 1961, that these proposals were tabled in Fumban and they were rejected. Please, the proposals were never, I repeat, never presented at Fumban. Some history teachers have misled students to say the proposals were presented and they were rejected. The proposals were never, I repeat, never presented at the Fumban Conference. So it could not have been rejected when they were not presented.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Liu. Ask Prof where one can get the English version of his books. This book is in English.
Yes, it is in English.
Where can they get it?
For now, I would request that they can get it directly from me, the phone, and I will ensure that they get the copies. At least my number, my number is also my mobile, also my mobile money account, and for now a copy goes for 10,000 francs, and I don't know, maybe here in Douala, Mr. Kum, you can be kind enough to assist me and have some copies here, and they can get them from you. Okay, so those who want to have copies, just get to me and we'll arrange on how you can get them. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please ask Prof where he got his own evidence, since he is asking for evidence on what others said. Was he there? Prof is going to answer you. Prof, just take note of that. Good evening, Mr. Kum. My name is Zidan Nong. I'm watching from Yaoundé. The problem is that Foncha and Endeli put their personal interest in front. Okay. Mr. Liu, good evening to you. And Professor Ngoh, can you please ask the professor, given that as a UN trust territory, Southern Cameroons had the right to gain sovereign independence, given that the pre-plebiscite agreement that the people of Southern Cameroons voted for was for a federation or joining by association in UN parlance, given that the UN stipulated in United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1541 that a trust territory that joins an independent state by association has the right to choose to change the terms of joining, does it not imply that Southern Cameroons to this day has the right to decide probably in an exclusive referendum to exit the Union? Thanks. Julius Ngoh is writing from the United Kingdom. Okay. The first one is, where did I get the documents or the evidence? This is what I had when I was still at the University of Boya from 1993 to 2013. I always advise students, please, unlike other universities not stationed in Boya, foreign universities in the UK, the US, France, Belgium, Germany, scholars come and go to the archives. The archives is in Boya. So please go to the archives. It is there in Boya. The documents are there. And some of the documents, of course, are not there. Some of the documents are in the National Archives in London. At first it was called Public Record Office. Now it is the National Archives. The documents are there. The documents are also in Lagos. And the documents are also in France. The minutes of the meeting of May 22 to 24, 1961, during which Ahidjo gave Foncha the draft. The minutes are there. They are in the archives in France. We have copies of the minutes, and that is what research is all about. You don't just sit home and you argue without evidence. Research is hard work. Okay. The next one is the UN Resolution 1541. I would like to say it is not only UN Resolution 1541, but also UN Resolution 1514 of December 1960, which clarified UN Charter Article 76B, which came out clearly that economic or financial inadequacy should not be used to prevent a trust territory or a colony from achieving independence. And 3 methods or ways were given: association, integration, and independence as a separate state. So those were the 3, and Southern Cameroons opted for either association with Nigeria or reunification with the Republic of Cameroon. Then the next one is Southern Cameroons should exit from the Union. And this is what I think has misled some young Cameroonians to take up arms, because they have been made to believe that they had independence at one time and they are fighting for the restoration of our independence. That one, it is not true. They had independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. If they had said no, they would not have had independence when they did and the way they did. So to come out and say Southern Cameroons can exit through a referendum, how do you organize a referendum? Who are those eligible to vote? Who are those who support the so-called wanting to exit? These are all questions which must be asked and addressed before you even start thinking of that. And of course, you have to look at the Constitution. The Federal Constitution, Article 47, says what? In summary form, any revision that affects the unity and territorial integrity of this federation is inadmissible. The federation in this context, it should be made very clear, the federation in this context is not the system of government. The federation in this context refers to the Federal Republic of Cameroon, which is a country or a state or a nation. Federation in this context is not, I repeat, not a system of government. They say it's the federal system. And if you want to know further why I'm saying this, read the Constitution of West and Cameroon, Article 57. It explains very well what federation means in this context.
Okay. So you've answered. I don't know whether you've answered him very well.
Which can you repeat it?
No, the one that talks about the possibility, given that given this, okay, can we now move out? I'm talking about Julius Ngoh, who says, given that as a UN trust territory, Southern Cameroons had the right to gain sovereign independence, given that the pre-plebiscite agreement that the people of Southern Cameroons voted for was a federation or joining by association, a UN parlance, given that the UN stipulated in United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1541 that a trust territory that joins an independent state by association has the right to choose to change the terms of joining.
No,
Does it really say that?
That is a misinterpretation of UN Resolution 1514.
I don't know. Julius Chafo, you are watching. You are watching the program. Can you just send us that resolution that says what you just said?
Yes,
just send it so that we can read it.
Yeah, it's a misinterpretation. The resolution doesn't say they have the right to walk out or whatever it is. And then also, what happened in 1961, October 1961, please read the two alternatives. Do you want to achieve independence by joining the Federation of Nigeria? Or do you want to achieve independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon? It never said the Federal Republic of Cameroon, or it never said a federation. Because this is the, I feel bad at times because you point out some of these things and they get so emotional. When Ahijo talked of basis, the reunification will be on the basis of a federation, and Cameroonians just take it. On the basis of a federation. But the plebiscite question said what? Do you want to achieve independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon? And basis of federation was vague, which unfortunately Southern Cameroon politicians did not nail it down. You can have a decentralized federation, you can have a strongly centralized federation. So when we are arguing that it was on the basis of a federation, okay. But what was it? A loose federation? Was it a centralized federation? Because eventually it became a centralized federation with all the problems that it's centralized, a heavily centralized federation created.
Okay. So many questions are coming in. I hope I can take one or two. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I wish to find out from Prof, with his wide knowledge of Cameroon's history, what has he done as an intellectual to see that this Anglophone crisis that has gone for more than 6 years be solved? Banta is writing from Bamenda. This one says, Mr. Randolph watching from Boya. My question to Prof is, if the third option was not popular, how then did the UN come up with Resolution 1806, which the Republic of French Cameroon voted against? Don't know. 1806?
No, I think he's referring to
1608.
1608,
yeah.
No, not 1806.
Okay. Was it voted against?
You see, there again, that's where I tell my students and colleagues that we should be very, very, very careful. Because the UN Resolution 1608 had problems. As far as the Republic of Cameroon was concerned, the UN trusteeship charter was for British Cameroons. It was not for British Southern Cameroon separate, British Northern Cameroon separate. So as far as Yaoundé was concerned, the plebiscite results should be calculated and pronounced as one. That is, the results of British Northern Cameroons and the results of British Southern Cameroon should be added together and pronounced as one. But the British were able to argue successfully that no, the results should be counted and announced separately and implemented separately, which meant that British Northern Cameroons, the results was calculated, announced separately, and to be implemented separately. Southern Cameroons calculated separately, announced separately. So that was why the Republic of Cameroon argued against and voted against. The Republic of Cameroon did not argue against and did not vote against Southern Cameroons having independence. No, argued against the way the results were calculated. Because if the results were combined, then both Northern Cameroons and Southern Cameroons would have jointly achieved independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. You can take the results of British Northern Cameroons, those who voted to join Nigeria and those who voted to join Southern Cameroons, and get the results of Southern Cameroon, those who voted to join Nigeria and those who voted to join the Republic of Cameroon. And you will realize that if the results were combined, were added together and announced as one and implemented as one, then Northern Cameroons and Southern Cameroons would have jointly achieved independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. That is what the Republic of Cameroon wanted, and consequently voted against that resolution. But immediately it was passed, it came down and accepted it. So there is this misinterpretation that the Republic of Cameroon did not want Southern Cameroon to achieve independence. No.
Yeah, but is the crux of the matter not also the difficult task of telling people that a nation gains independence by joining? What is independence by joining? How do you get independence by joining another nation? Because, like you said, the Gambia and other nations with far less population stood on their own.
Yeah, that is what I've been trying to explain. The international context at the time, the Cold War. Nigeria was a British colony in the capitalist camp. In the capitalist camp. French Cameroon with UPC. There was the fear that if it's not well handled, the French Cameroon will go the way of a communist camp, because China and the Soviet Union supported the UPC. So you had a situation where the US, France, and the United Kingdom, the capitalist camp, did everything for Southern Cameroons to achieve independence by joining Nigeria, so that Nigeria could be used as a counterweight against Ghana, against Secretary, and against Egypt. Okay. So that's it. Resolution 1608 is clear, and it has been misinterpreted to the extent that some Anglophones have taken up arms, saying that Southern Cameroon had independence because of UN resolution 1608. Others argue that there was no union treaty, therefore the so-called independence of Southern Cameroon was not and is not valid. It is a wrong reading of resolution 1608.
Okay, I'll read from your book, Understanding the Rejection of the Third Option again. Okay, the title of the book is Former Southern Cameroons, the Third Option and the Anglophone Problem 1959 to 2022, a historical-conflict study by Professor Julius Ngoh. You said there is no question that Britain wanted Southern Cameroon to achieve independence in association with Nigeria. The British never favored Southern Cameroons being an independent separate state. By relying on financial economic reports which were clearly designed to support the British policy, UN members and more especially those of the Afro-Asian bloc used the excuse of financial insolvency to deny Southern Cameroonians the third option. This was in spite of UN resolution 1514 of 14 December 1960, which clearly stated that inadequacy of political economic preparedness should never serve as a pretext for delaying independence, which means that the British were not sincere here.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I've been saying.
Okay. In 1960-1961, Southern Cameroons was with a surface area of 42,000 square kilometers and a population of 800,000 was more than each of the countries cited in Table 2 in population and surface area. Table 2 of this book?
Yeah. It should
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
In 1961, the Gambia, for example, had a surface area of about 11,000 square kilometers with a population of 250,000 and achieved independence in 1965 as a separate political entity. In early 1959, the British Colonial Office held that a union between the Gambia and Senegal would not be a good possibility because of the Gambia's very dire political and economic prospects. But the dire warning did not prevent Britain from administering the Gambia successfully to independence in 1965 as a separate political entity. A quick glance at some of the independent states in Africa as of 2012. Okay, we have Cape Verde. Area is 4,030 square kilometers. Population 505,000 people. Sao Tome and Principe. Okay, Seychelles, Equatorial Guinea, and Djibouti. These are very small countries as per what you are saying. Okay, so British is the British. They are highly indexed as per what you are saying here.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Simply because they wanted Southern Cameroon to be part of Nigeria.
Nigeria.
It worked for the northern part, but failed.
It failed in the southern part.
Now, the British wanted association with Nigeria.
Yes.
They worked so hard for it to happen. Who betrayed them?
You see, what happened is that unfortunately for the British, the KNC KPP did not do a serious campaign. They focused mostly in the forest zone, and even in the forest zone, they were divided. And not only that, they lacked the financial support. Even when the KNC signed the secret agreement with the action group, you'll be surprised to know that the Secretary General of the KNC, Victor E. Mukete, was not aware of the secret agreement between the KNC and the action group. Whereas at this same time, the KNDP was receiving huge financial support from pro-reunification groups in French Cameroon, eventually in the Republic of Cameroon. And also, what has not been exposed so far is that there was a very strong colony of French Cameroonians resident in southern Cameroon, especially in Kumba, in Bamenda, and in Victoria. And these French Cameroonian residents in southern Cameroon financially supported in a big way the KNDP. And one of the strongest French Cameroonian residents in southern Cameroon was Henry Ngoh in Kumba. He marshaled French Cameroonians resident in southern Cameroon to massively support the KNDP, both financially, materially, and on the day of the elections, they went and voted. And of course, some French Cameroonians in the Republic of Cameroon, alongside the border in Lum, Mbanga, crossed over and voted for reunification. And one caller asked why I have not been able to propose solution for the resolution of the crisis. If he gets the book, I think he will see I've given at least 13 reasons why the crisis is going on. At least 13 reasons. And amongst them, it's painful to understand that most Cameroonians, Anglophones, some of them do not want the crisis to stop. And that I've given that from page 338 to 340, 338 to 340 reasons why the crisis after 6 years.
Okay, but I want us to go further to chapter 4 of the book. It talks about drafting the federal constitution and independence. Okay, who drafted the constitution?
You see, the constitution was, I repeat, was the amended constitution of the Republic of Cameroon. It was drafted single-handedly by the Republic of Cameroon. That must be said. And it's so unfortunate that when Ahidjo gave Foncha the draft, it was with the understanding that Foncha would present the draft at the Bamenda All-Party Constitutional Conference of June 26 to June 28, 1961. Unfortunately, that was not done. So when the Fumban Conference opened on Monday, the 17th of July, Ahidjo made it clear that this is the draft. You go and study. This is the draft we are going to work on. And Dr. Ewane in Delhi took the floor that Monday and said, unfortunately, some of us are seeing this draft here for the first time. Some of us are seeing this draft here for the first time. And begged Ahidjo to give the Southern Cameroon and delegation time to study the draft. And Ahidjo accepted. And that's how Southern Cameroon, the delegation took the draft and went and studied the draft and came back on Friday, the 21st, and thanked Ahidjo for having allowed them to go through the draft.
Are these what you're saying? Are they documented?
Of course.
You have
documents are there, and even in the book I've cited the various documents. And those who would want to have it, they can come and then we go to the archives. I have my copy. So what happened is that on Friday, the 21st, the Southern Cameroon the delegation came now for the closing ceremony and thanked Ahidjo for having allowed them to go to the draft. And in Dr. Ewane in Delhi said the reunion will be very successful if their suggestions are taken into account. There was never a time that the delegations sat and said, okay, Article 1 is this, what do you say, and they move on. No. Or that Southern Cameroon presented its own draft constitution and the Republic of Cameroon presented its own, and then they studied the two drafts. No. As I've said, Southern Cameroon did not present any draft.
Yes, they did not present any draft. But are we saying that Southern Cameroonians at the time, they had no document that was regulating the way they were functioning?
That is a very good question. And to answer it, let me just give you an idea. At that time, Southern Cameroons had the Southern Cameroon Bar Association. And the Southern Cameroon Bar Association even informed the Southern Cameroon government that they were willing to assist for reasons which I've not been able to explain. The Cameroon Bar Association was not invited to Fumban.
Now, we're talking about drafting of crafting the federal constitution. Julius Chofo is raising a concern that I want you to address or to look into it. But Mr. Liu, Prof. Ngoh himself said on your program some time ago that Southern Cameroons never ratified the Fumban Constitution. There was no constitution in Fumban, it was a draft as required by the UN General Assembly Resolution 1608. How can a constitution that bore no resemblance to what the people voted for and was never ratified by the people be binding on them? The type of federation was defined in the pre-plebiscite agreement. Okay, that is what he's saying. Yes, but you understand what he's saying?
Yes. So what is his worry? What is his question?
He is saying that you said that in one of our programs we had here with you, Southern Cameroons never ratified the Fumban Constitution as required by UN General Assembly Resolution 1608. I don't know whether that resolution actually said they should ratify a constitution or rather endorse the plebiscite decision, because when they say independence by joining, I don't know. But how can a constitution that bore no resemblance to what the people voted for and was never ratified by the people be binding on them?
First of all, this is the problem that I've encountered and I'm encountering. I've said it several times. There was never a constitution adopted at Fumban. I've said that several times. What emerged from Fumban were constitutional proposals. I repeat, constitutional proposals. And on Friday, the 17th of July 1961, in Ahidjo's closing remark, he said another conference will be called where these proposals, constitutional proposals, will be put in the legal constitutional form. That's what he said. And he said, I hope all of you will be present. All of you will be present. He was now referring to the Southern Cameroons delegation. I hope all of you will be present. And that next conference was the Yaoundé tripartite talks, which surprisingly, most historians don't even know about the Yaoundé tripartite talks. That was the crux of the matter, the conference that put into constitutional form, legal form, the proposals from Fumban. There was no constitution from Fumban. There were proposals. Okay, what happened at the tripartite talks? Ahidjo was able to convince the Southern Cameroons delegation to allow him speak on behalf of both the Republic of Cameroon and the Southern Cameroons delegation. And it should be underscored that although we say the Yaoundé tripartite talks from the 2nd of August to the 7th of August 1961, in actual fact, there were two meetings. The first was from the 2nd of August to the 4th of August, which did not include the United Kingdom. So from the 2nd of August to the 4th of August, you can call it a bilateral or inter-Cameroon conference or talks. And it was during that talks that the proposals from Fumban were put into constitutional form and presented at the Yaoundé tripartite talks. This is important because the Yaoundé tripartite talks, which most historians don't even know, had 6 points on the agenda. I repeat, 6 points on the agenda. And the UK leader, Christopher Eastwood, added the 7th point, which was situation of the Cameroon development and cooperation. So all in all, the Yaoundé and tripartite talks on the agenda had 7 points. So what happened? The Yaoundé tripartite talks proper ran from the 5th of August to the 7th of August. And during that period, the UK delegation joined the delegation of Southern Cameroon and Republic of Cameroon. But all along, Ahidjo was speaking as if he was speaking on behalf of both, I repeat, both the Republic of Cameroon and Southern Cameroon. To the extent that on the issue of the Constitution, Ahidjo told the UK and delegation that we have already agreed on the Constitution. That's what he said. And the UK delegation said, that was good. Thank you for having solved that problem. That's it. So it now became a situation of the appropriate legislative bodies, I repeat, appropriate legislative bodies to deliberate and approve the adopting or not adopting the draft constitution. And this issue was raised by Augustin Ngomjwa at the Yaoundé tripartite talks. And because he said it would be better for the Southern Cameroon House of Assembly to also deliberate this draft constitution as the National Assembly of the Republic of Cameroon will do. Unfortunately, Jua was told that whatever constitution the Republic of Cameroon, that is the National Assembly of the Republic of Cameroon accepts, Southern Cameroon was bound to accept. And surprisingly, there was no argument from the Southern Cameroons and delegation. And this is where the absence of the Southern Cameroon Bar Association was felt. I would like us to go back a bit. At the close of the Fumban Conference, Ahidjo's closing remark was what? These proposals will be put in their legal constitutional form in another conference which will come up. And I hope all of you will be present. But unfortunately, the Yaoundé tripartite talks, the CPNC was left out. The Cameroon Bar Association was not invited. And the Attorney General of Southern Cameroon even mentioned and regretted the absence of the Southern Cameroon Bar Association. And he said there were issues, there were legal issues, which they would have loved to have the opinion of the Southern Cameroon Bar Association. So it is true, and I've said it, the Southern Cameroon House of Assembly never deliberated. What they did, and some people are getting confused, in September 13, was to pronounce on the brotherly conduct of the negotiations. And that was what the Southern Cameroon House of Chiefs and the Southern Cameroon House of Assembly passed. The motion was pronounced on the brotherly conduct of the negotiations. The constitution itself was never deliberated.
Was never deliberated, but now the representatives of Her Majesty's nation was there, the British. They were there while Ahidjo did this. Did they not, for once, think that there was need for the delegation from Southern Cameroons to also look into it? How could they have endorsed something that was done by President Amadou Ahidjo without raising any alarm?
That is a very good question. During the tripartite meeting in Boya in June, Amadou Ahidjo said the drafting of the constitution is a Cameroonian affair for Cameroonians. Yeah, well, June 1961, Cameroonian affair for Cameroonians. In Fumban, on the opening day, 17th of July 1961, Foncha said, the drafting of this constitution is a Cameroonian affair. It would be foolish to look for help elsewhere. It is there in the records. It is there. The drafting of this constitution is a Cameroonian affair. It will be foolish to look for help elsewhere. And then, at the tripartite talks, they were informed that we have already agreed on a constitution. The Southern Cameroon delegation was present. When Ahidjo said Southern Cameroons and the Republic of Cameroon have already agreed. So you wanted the British government to say, no, you have not. When the Southern Cameroon the delegates were there, and they fell in line.
Okay. El Malik Lyonga says, I'm watching from Bombay. Ekoma Marvin says, greetings to you, Mr. Liu. Greetings to my political godfather, Professor Victor Julius Ngoh. Sorry, I missed the program. Ekoma Marvin says, Ngunagi Rene says, hello, Mr. Akuma, I'm enjoying your program, and I'm watching from Yaoundé. Lekunze Melinze Stanley says, watching from Baturi. Good evening to you, my brother, always watching all our programs. Kumerik Ako says, I'm watching from Bamenda. Political analyst says, I'm watching from Kwen Bamenda. Prof's head, I must say, is a library. Raymond Landrin says, nice. Fondu Shuibu says, watching live from Yaoundé Mbalmayo. Aku Crisanto says, how much is the book? The book is 10,000 francs. You can get to me if you need a copy.
And those who want to get to me directly, I can give them my
just do.
Number 67773 848 0 67773 848 0.
Okay. Luis Enan Koge says, I'm watching from Boya. Kudos to Prof. Bismarck and Jeba says, I'm watching live from Yaoundé. Ngonge Relin is watching from Yaoundé. Julian Bright watching from Sokapa Mbambu. Oh, greet everybody watching from Mbambu. If you see my other brother Koni, greet him. Mr. John Andembiri and Augustine. In fact, everybody in Bamboo, greet all of them for me. Eric McDonald says, watching from Nicosia, Cyprus. More Grace, Neri White and Tui says, watching from Ekok borders to Nigeria. Okay. Mark None Ernest Ngwan says, I'm watching live from Elak Oku. Kudos to you, Mr. Leonard. Nusi Emilia says, I'm watching from Yaoundé. Betran Njito is watching from Boya. Good evening to all of you guys watching us across the world. Prof, let's look at the Anglophone problem. It is chapter 5. You look at the Anglophone problem. What are you presenting as the core reasons for the Anglophone problem?
Yeah, it is clear. There is an Anglophone problem.
Okay.
And I've been saying this as far back as when I was a lecturer at the University of Yaoundé. There is an Anglophone problem. And the Anglophone problem is the failure of the successive governments, Ahidjo and Biya governments, to implement adequately what the parties agreed in Fumban. And what did they agree? They agreed that the educational system, the judicial system, the administrative system would be left untouched as they were in 1961, which means that the system which operated in Southern Cameroon would be allowed to flourish. What obtained in French Cameroon, the Republic of Cameroon, would be allowed to flourish. They will only be blended at the center, and that was the federal system. Unfortunately, this was not done because in less than a month, I repeat, in less than a month, October 20th, 1961, Amadou Ahidjo passed a decree that partitioned or divided the Federal Republic of Cameroon into administrative units. which in fact reduce the powers of the Prime Minister of West Cameroon. And subsequently, there was this idea of gradually taking away the powers of the federal system, the powers of West Cameroon government. And this, you see, from a constitutional point of view, it was not a violation of the Constitution, because Articles 5 and 6, which I've explained, gave powers to Ahijo. And also they took certain subjects which should have been handled by the West Cameroon government as far as West Cameroon was concerned, or the East Cameroon government as far as the East Cameroon government was concerned. Those subjects were now made federal subjects, and that weakened the administrative and educational policies. And once you start, it was said that the police and the gendarmes were federal subjects. It therefore meant that Southern Cameroonians who were not used to the system of the gendarmes had to contend with a new system. And we are told very, very clearly that the gendarmes, they will commit quote-unquote offenses, and they found it difficult that they were asked to go to court, to appear in court and explain. Whereas, as far as Southern Cameroon was concerned, or West Cameroon, that was part and parcel of it. So these are some of the problems which continued and became much more serious after 1972, and more especially after 1984. You see, what we fail to understand, there's a difference between the Anglophone problem, which I've tried to explain, and the marginalization of Anglophones. The non-appointment of Anglophone ministers to head some ministries, the lack of schools here, the lack of this there, those do not constitute the problem. They constitute the manifestation or consequences of the problem. And what happened in 1984, the change of name from the United Republic of Cameroon to simply the Republic of Cameroon is not the Anglophone problem. It's not the Anglophone. It is the manifestation of the problem. So Cameroonians should make a difference between the problem and the manifestation or consequences of the problem. So it becomes very, very bad, especially when some Anglophones, for political reasons, try to argue at one point that there was no Anglophone problem. There was, and there is, because as far as I'm concerned, based on what obtains on the ground, the problem has not been solved yet. We can argue that it would take time. It is an evolution. It involves and gradually it will be solved. But
okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Is Thomas watching from Dibanda? Please ask Prof. Ngoh, how did the plebiscite day, 11th of February 1961, a day Southern Cameroonians have voted to either join Nigeria or Republic of Cameroon, suddenly become National Youth Day, as celebrated today? Daisy, writing from Kumba, says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and a special one to Prof. Victor Ngoh. I've enjoyed and learned. Thank you for the topic. Good evening to you, Daisy. Yes, Prof, can we understand the plebiscite?
Yeah, you see, there again, I always find myself in an uncomfortable situation where I have to explain things which some Cameroonians think that they are right. 11th February 1961 was plebiscite day, and rightly so. Eventually became the Youth Day. And for quite some time, because most Anglophones believe that all the problems of Anglophone are caused by Francophones. I take a different view, that Anglophones should be honest enough to recognize that we are also part of, we are also responsible for some of the problems. At one time, it was popular concept that it was Amadou Ahidjo who transformed Plebiscite Day, 11th February, to Youth Day, because Amadou Ahidjo wanted to annex or to cover up what happened on the 11th of February. No. Youth Day was put in place on the 11th of February by Foncha, the Prime Minister of West and Cameroon, 1963 and 1964. And Amadou Ahidjo enjoyed it and asked that it should be extended all over the territory. So it was not something that the Ahidjo...
Explain. How did Foncha make 11th of February a Youth Day, and to the extent of Ahidjo borrowing the idea to be celebrated across?
Yeah. Initially, you had the Cameroons Day, October 24th, because on October 24th, the Southern Cameroons had their quasi-federal territory, so it was celebrated as quote unquote their national day. Then later on, there was the Queen's birthday was also celebrated. So in 1961, February, you had the plebiscite, and the Youth Day, I mean the National Day of October 24th, and the Queen's birthday could not be celebrated at the same time. Foncha decided to use 11th February as the Youth Day because he wanted the youth to be told exactly what happened on that day, and also to enhance national unity. So it became, on the first celebration, which took place in Victoria, the Sultan of the Bamon was invited. The King of Douala was invited. They all participated. There was even a canoe race between Bimbia and Bota. So I just saw it, that it was interesting, and it brought the youths, both Francophone youths and Anglophone youths, to work together. And in '64, he said it was a good idea, and it should become nationwide. So that's how 11th February became Youth Day.
Okay, I'm also learning this for the first time. I've never known this, huh? Yes.
Yeah, the more reason why the government should insist that Cameroonian history be taught in all schools at all levels, whether you are doing medicine or agric.
Yeah, but coming to this, somebody asked what you as a prominent historian has done so far to ending the ongoing crisis. Are you people, the historians, not also afraid to speak out and tell Cameroonians what their true history is? Because we have heard very little from you. There was a commission that was created to come up with something like an encyclopedia for Cameroon's history. You also are part of it. How do you think you people can help change the situation on ground? How far are we with that commission?
I hate to say it because I'm one of the vice presidents there, and we are two of us, my French-speaking colleague and Professor Aboa and myself. I hate to say it, there's the complete lack of political will. The presidency put in place the commission, and I must say, for almost the last 2 years, we have not met. We have written, Professor Aboa and myself, we have written, we have drawn out the program, and we have given out what should be done, the various volumes, who should head the various volumes. It will soon be 2 years, and we have not received any response. It is sad. So my own conclusion is that there's a complete lack of political will, and maybe because of the crisis, the commission to write the Cameroon history was formed just as a stopgap measure, and once it was announced, and 1 or 2 meetings took place, and that's all. So actually, as of this day, there's absolutely nothing on the table. Nothing is going on.
Why was 11 February called Empire Day, Prof?
That is what I'm saying. It was initially the Queen's birthday, but in 1958, because of the rapid decolonization process, both in Africa and in other British colonies in Asia, the British Prime Minister and his team decided that it was derogatory to refer to it as Empire Day, because most of the British colonies were having their independence. So it was eventually scrapped. Okay.
So previously, Empire Day was celebrated?
Yes.
Okay, so it only became obsolete after independence?
It was, in fact, we used to live in those days in Victoria to Mboya for sporting activities and all those things.
Good evening, sir. I wish this program should be rebroadcast. It's Ngang Jerry writing from Bamuka in Ndop, UK. There is going to be a rebroadcast edition of this program tomorrow as from 1 p.m. If you joined late, please just tune to My Media Prime TV tomorrow 1 p.m. and you are going to be able to follow it. Thankful for the response given by Prof. Okay, that is someone who is following. But someone had a response to you in here, Mr. Julius Ngoh. I don't know whether you're still watching the program. You say, who will organize the sponsor the referendum? Because you suggested that, okay, referendum will be organized. When the people of Catalonia decided to split from Spain and organize a self-sponsored referendum, where over 90% of the people voted to split from Spain, the United Nations Organization refused to recognize it. Until date, the Catalonians are still part of Spain. Concerning the Southern Cameroon scenario, I could have preferred that they implement what happened in Upper Silesia in 1921, where a plebiscite was organized, and those who voted to join Germany, that is 700,000 people, 60% were allowed to join Germany, while those who voted to join Poland, 500,000 people, 40% were allowed to join Poland. Though Poland got just 40%, it contains the most industrialized parts of Upper Silesia. Germany protested, but nothing could be done because the people's choice had been respected. So this could have been done in Southern Cameroon. Okay, I'm sure you are likening it to what happened during the plebiscite. We are actually out of time. We have the Anglophone crisis transformed into the armed conflict contained in this book, but you also have chapter 8, Bia convenes a major national dialogue. What are you saying about the major national dialogue, an opportunity that was well exploited and that is yielding fruits? Or, unfortunately, like you just said, that a commission is created, you are the vice president, and for 2 years nothing is happening.
Yeah, the major national dialogue was laudable initiative by the head of state and had the PM to chair it, and it was welcomed by well-meaning Cameroonians, and even the Amazonian frontline leaders in the diaspora. Most of them were invited, and some of them accepted coming. but at the end, for reasons best known to them, they did not come. You see, the president made it clear the dialogue was to address the aspirations of the people of Northwest and Southwest. And the aspirations of the people of Northwest and Southwest can be summarized under the fact that they wanted a greater space to run their affairs. I was a member of the Commission on Local Development, Local Government, and this, which was the key commission, and there we tried to argue that a federal structure will best solve the problem in Cameroon, and not only the situation in Northwest and Southwest. Unfortunately, the view was not accepted, as I explained in the book, because we were told that the form of the state was out of the in question. And I would like to say that that commission worked hard. In the commission, you had Barrister Agbo Bala, the former. You had the former Prime Minister, His Excellency Yang was there. The Archbishop of the Bamenda Archdiocese was there at the time. The current president of the Cameroon Bar Association was there. But unfortunately, our proposal for a federal structure was not accepted. I recall, and it is in the book, I took the floor and I cited Article 2 of the Constitution, which says that sovereignty lies with the Cameroonian people, and this sovereignty can be exercised either through their elected MPs or by a referendum. And I said that to find out what the Cameroonian people really wanted, then they should be given the opportunity to say that through a referendum. Unfortunately, that was not accepted, and we finally settled on the special status, which is found in Article 62. I would like to make this very clear. In our thinking, we thought that what was important was the content of a bottle and not the label. And we argued that if the special status is accepted, then another commission should be created to work out the contents of the special status. So that was what we recommended. But it seems as if that particular recommendation was not taken into account, because eventually some of us saw what came out as a special status, and in all political and dispensation, we some of us are just watching to see how effective the special status is, because we now have the regional executive council, we have the regional assembly, and as far as the Northwest and Southwest regions are concerned, but we want to see the powers that those assemblies have. It is not just saying that there's the House of Chiefs in Northwest, House of Chiefs in Southwest, there's the regional assembly, there's regional executive council, but we have to know the powers assigned to those bodies, and of course the financing of those bodies come from where? Who gives the money? Because you all know the person who has the purse and determines the music.
Okay. So many questions. October 1st how important was it? And October 1st was the day of voting?
No, October 1st was the day the Southern Cameroons achieved independence by joining the Republic.
The voting took place
the voting
on the 11th
took place on 11th of
February.
February. And the actual independence was the 1st of October.
By joining.
By joining, it is important to emphasize on that.
So many questions are coming in here from so many persons who are also watching from across the world. It's even difficult to read because the messages keep coming. Great program. I doff my hat to Prof. The truth about handling the issue of federalism special status has been told. Watching from Batibo, Afo Stevens. Good evening to you, Mr. Stephen, for always watching and participating. I'll take two more questions. Difficult even to take them. Now, the major national dialogue is there. You say you are just observing, and you've documented it in this book. And grievances and quest for solutions. Effectively, how should solutions be brought to this ongoing crisis?
First of all, I must state that the fact that a good number of the Amba fighters are laying down their arms and going to the various centers, it doesn't mean that the Anglophone problem has been solved. I think the Amba fighters have realized that they have been misled, and the way of having a permanent solution to this crisis is to have an all-inclusive dialogue to really put everything on the table, so as to get people to understand what it is all about. I would like to say that some of those who initially opted for secession, they thought, or they wanted to use secession as a bargaining chip to get a federal structure. But unfortunately, some people just took control of everything, and the crisis now has become more or less a money-making business, as the Ambas kidnap innocent Cameroonians for in ransom, and it becomes really difficult to understand what they want, because as I say, and I will say, the killings of the innocent Cameroonians in Bamenda, a natural junction. How will that bring the independence?
Okay, this guy's, the person says there is a difference between what you say and what some historians, many historians who come on my platform say. Most of the persons who come on my platform are not historians. I've invited several historians to come on this platform. I don't know why they wouldn't come. So many history teachers in almost every secondary school in Cameroon, they are teaching history, but I invite them to come and tell the world this history. They would not come. In our universities, we have history lecturers who would also not come to talk on TV. But so many persons have written on something. Sure, it's Joao. No. Endeli, who says he described Nigeria as was it fire?
No, the Fonts and Chiefs.
Okay, it's a Fonts and Chiefs.
Yes.
But Endeli warned about joining Cameroon.
French. What Dr. Indeli for the plebiscite said, please don't join the Republic of Cameroon. It is not safe. There's insecurity. People are arrested for expressing their views. They are being killed every day. French Cameroonians run away from the Republic of Cameroon to Southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon is very safe, and nobody has escaped from Southern Cameroon to the Republic of Cameroon. So please don't vote for reunification. You vote for reunification, you are in liberty, everything will be.
Yeah, I want to make this clarification, and if the chiefs themselves said that moving this way was not safe and that other way was not safe. These are just thoughts that were expressed by the chiefs and a political leader. But the problem now lies in
putting it forward as a political platform for the population to decide on. There was none. No. That's why the documents are there. It was not popular, and I've given reasons why I've said it was not popular. So
the book Former Southern Cameroons, the Third Option and the Anglophone Problem, 1959 to 2022, a historical-conflict study. I have a copy here. I'm sure this is my copy, Prof.
Yes, it is yours.
Okay, yes, signed already. This is my copy. If you need a copy, just write to me, and I'll see how I can get it to you, or I'll connect you with Prof for those who are in the Southwest region. We thank you, Prof, for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I hope that the publication will help in making Cameroonians understand and see why this senseless conflict should stop, and the government should be much more aggressive in its approach towards resolving the conflict.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Kum. How do I get those My Media Prime HD decoders here in Bamenda? If you want to get our decoders, please go to Swecom office that is located behind Bali Park. Just go to Bali Park around the Camp Cool office. Ask for Swecom office. Almost everybody knows it. You get to the office and ask for a decoder. They're going to serve you with one. If you're in Bamenda and you want My Media Prime decoder, go to Swecom office around Bali Park, Camp Cool head office. You see the Swecom office there. You ask and make a request for one, and you are going to be served. Thank you, and thank you all who took time off to watch today's edition of the program, and to you, Desmond and Ella, for always producing this program. Tabi Tambe Bryant for supervision. We thank you all. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.